Today we will discuss addiction. How do people become addicted to substances or something else? Addiction, in general, is more than just drug or sex addiction. Not only porn, but also smoking and alcohol addiction. Addiction can manifest itself in a variety of ways. Everyone has their own addictions. Someone is addicted to his girlfriend, who may or may not be his girlfriend, but the same sex. People are generally addicted to their smartphones, particularly to social media platforms such as Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. What we'd like to discuss today is how addiction develops and what happens in the human brain when someone becomes addicted. So here's the thing, let me introduce you to what the human brain is like. So the human brain is divided into three parts: the right brain, the left brain, and the hemisphere, which is either the right or left hemisphere in the neocortex. However, the brain is divided into three parts in general. An outer neocortex is in charge of intellectual calculation, decision-making, and language formulation. If we talk, then mathematics and strategic planning are stepped on by the cortex of our intelligent brain, or let's say the CEO is in charge, who tells us that if we want this, we must strategize it. This is the neocortex. The second component is the limbic system, which is located deeper within the neocortex. Within the neocortex, there are several parts, and the limbic system is referred to as a whole. There is the amygdala and the hippocampus in the limbic system, the hippocampus being in charge of or responsible for memory remembering and others from the hippocampus, while there is another name for the thalamus and the hypothalamus being part of the hormone producer. The hormones that allow us to feel things. The thalamus and hypothalamus produce hormones that determine whether you feel happy or sad, whether you are in shock, hurt, or stressed. Everything you feel in terms of human emotions is caused by chemical reactions in your brain. What exactly is the chemical reaction? These hormones are, in fact, neurotransmitters. There is another part of the brain at the bottom because the three previously mentioned are neocortex, limbic system, and the name of the human reptile brain. I return to the hypothalamus, the second part of the brain, because there are hormones that make us feel uncomfortable, such as cortisol, stress hormones, adrenaline, and norepinephrine. But there are also hormones that make us happy, hormones that make us feel pleasure from stress, hormones such as dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins, and serotonin. The first hormone, dopamine, has a significant impact on the addiction problem. People who are unable to control their dopamine levels will have their lives ruined. Dopamine is a hormone or neurotransmitter that makes us feel pleasure, and not only pleasure, the hormone dopamine also makes us feel excited to get something we don't have or motivated to take something we don't have now. I read about it in Daniel Lieberman's book, The Molecule of More. It is stated in the book that people who do not want to change, who usually use dopamine, will have many problems in their lives if they use this hormone now, or the so-called oxytocin hormone. Why? Because dopamine has only one command in us: more, more, more. You think. Get something new. That's what you get when you scroll TikTok. When you look at Instagram, there's something new, new news, new food. After you bite, your brain releases dopamine. The hypothalamus produces dopamine as well as sex. Orgasm. The dopamine hormone released in the brain during an orgasm is extremely high. That is why orgasm makes us feel good. What is the purpose of dopamine? Yes, so humans can survive. Without dopamine, humans cannot feel pleasure when reproducing. What happens if we no longer enjoy having to breed? Yes. Eventually breeding becomes a normal thing for us, and sexual relations are no longer interesting. So that is the function of dopamine, for us to survive and achieve our goals. So dopamine can be directed to the positive side, as in work to get more. It can even help you be motivated to get what you want. But if you can't control dopamine, dopamine will control your life. People who are addicted, for example, what makes people addicted to cigarettes? For example, maybe you answer yes, nicotine. Wrong. Dopamine is stimulated by nicotine. So, if we are addicted to alcohol or cigarettes, what motivates us to smoke or drink again is our dopamine, which has linked dopamine and the stimulant, namely nicotine, alcohol, or sex, with pleasure. That's why we keep asking for it again and again. Addiction, at a certain level, can truly destroy our lives, as in the case of drug addiction. Why is there anyone willing to destroy his entire life because his job was fired, his job was messy, he lost his family, he cheated on his family, he lost all friends, the important thing is he got the methamphetamine again? Why do you believe that? However, if you use common sense, if he was duped into being manipulative in order to obtain the medicine, he would lose it all and more in the long run. You might think it's an irrational decision, but an addict's brain already has a pleasure hierarchy, a dopamine hierarchy. Drugs are the activities that produce the highest and highest levels of dopamine. They produce a lot more substances that make us happy. Dopamine is abundant in methamphetamine, for example. Dopamine is abundant in heroin. Not to mention dopamine and heroin. There is also oxytocin, the love hormone, the hormone we feel when we fall deeply in love with someone, and heroin makes us feel that. Imagine the pleasure felt by heroin users who are already flooded with dopamine. Some say it is 40 times better than sex, and he feels calm like he is sleeping next to the person he loves. No longer does heroin only produce dopamine. So, why do people become addicted? Because people believe they are not designed to feel that high of pleasure, whereas methamphetamine or heroin in other opioids causes our brains to produce too much of the hormones dopamine and oxytocin. So addicts can no longer find pleasure in things other than drugs, and in the end, he isn't even interested in having sex because what he needs is the drugs themselves. So basically, what happens in your brain when you're addicted to something is that your brain's dopamine levels are too high. Are all addictions the same as drug addiction? Not. However, drug addiction is the most addictive and difficult to overcome drug. Then there's social media, and then there's TikTok. Why weren't our fathers addicted to television? We're addicted to cell phones because the news almost never mentions you. While using social media, it's all about you, my friend, Instagram, TikTok, whatever you want. Application technology engineers design how it is important that the app is accessed for a longer period of time. I mean, all technicians, CEOs, and managers are working on how to maximize, using your brain's weakness, dopamine, to keep you in their application for longer. Why? For advertisements to arrive, we are extremely vulnerable to becoming addicted to social media because its design is so optimized to make us addicted. Not to mention the notification and the sound that occurs when there is a notification. Only a slight ting sound of dopamine will be heard, signaling you to pick up your smartphone once more. You want to sleep, you put down your smartphone, but you forgot to set the silent ringtone, you close your eyes, and there is a dopamine ting sound. Dopamine tells you to access it because your dopamine knows that by using my smartphone, you can get more dopamine. At first, you just want to check incoming WhatsApp, but after holding this smartphone, your dopamine tells you to close WhatsApp and open your TikTok, so I can say TikTok is dangerous. Why didn't I say Instagram is risky? Actually, all social media is dangerous, but the negative effect of TikTok is that it draws your attention away from other social media platforms. But TikTok gets you used to seeing something new that is really fun, with sounds and fun music, and seeing something ready that you've never seen before, or even something pornographic, like women dancing, and it stimulates your dopamine, which asks you to do it again. Swipe up again, and perhaps the dopamine will continue to flow. When you get used to watching short videos, anything other than TikTok becomes too boring. Because you are used to watching TikTok, your attention span is very short. That attention span, if people frequently watch videos and are frequently stimulated by dopamine in a short time, they will choose the one with more dopamine, of course. While you may only get a little dopamine from this, you are not used to studying, and you do not enjoy the learning process, so a little dopamine that appears will definitely be more fun. You close this video and return to your TikTok. That is why TikTok is dangerous, even if Instagram and YouTube aren't. Now that there are Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts, the trend of short videos will undoubtedly continue. Why? Because all of those app companies are competing for your attention, and the best way to get your attention is with dopamine and something new. A 15-second video is a good dopamine stimulant. That's why all apps are now following TikTok. It's too late to warn people about the dangers of TikTok. TikTok has now spread to Instagram Reels to YouTube Short. So it's not a question of content. Many people say there is a lot of positive content and a lot of negative content. It's not about the content per se. How the application, designed to keep you coming back, ended up making you addicted to make your dopamine shoot on. So what if we're addicted to something, like pornography, smartphones, social media, cigarettes, alcohol, or drugs? If drugs are different, drugs must be rehabilitated, and I don't know of a more effective way than that, which is obviously difficult for drugs. How do we break free from our addictions? What you can't do is fight the monster. Your addiction is a monster. You are too small to fight the monster. It's just a direct war, boss. Not. It is ineffective. You believe I have willpower. You read a book on Stoicism. For instance, you believe in your ability to control yourself and then confront it. It's okay, the smartphone is next to my pillow, I can't open it because I've closed it. Not. To defeat the monsters, use your brain rather than your muscles. All you can do is avoid any source of dopamine stimulation. Dopamine comes from notifications, which means the smartphone screen is turned on, which means a party with alcohol. If you are an alcoholic, avoid smartphones with game applications. This means you must delete the game completely so that there are no notifications and you cannot accept an invitation from a friend. The first time you stop, you will experience intense discomfort. People quit addiction because it is associated with anything very unpleasant and excruciating, but allow it to happen because your brain needs to readjust when dopamine is no longer the main fuel of your life. You can now enjoy things you couldn't before because you can start enjoying them again. You will be able to feel pleasure from things like sports and playing with your children once you have eliminated the poison source of dopamine in the brain. Again, don't be too strong to deal with addiction, you're not as strong as you think. Avoid all triggers and feel the bitterness and discomfort, then move slowly back to normal in 2 to 3 weeks, 1 month, or 2 months, depending on the severity of the addiction. Hopefully. Thank you very much for your visit. Thank you for your time.